Hello, everyone. Welcome to How to Create a Winning Social Media Strategy with me, Olivia Hanlon. If you want, you can type in the chat. I've got it up on my separate screen, so I'll be able to see it. I want to make it slightly interactive, so it'd be interesting for you guys to kind of get interactive with me. So just a little bit about me first. So my name is Olivia Hanlon. I'm the founder of Girls in Marketing, and I am from Liverpool, if you can't tell already. There's a little QR code at the bottom here. Currently a little bit obsessed with QR codes, I'll be honest. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. Today's session is obviously all about how to create a social media strategy, a winning social media strategy. As we kind of approach 2022, it's very much on everyone's lips, like how we can change our social media strategy to be better, how we can improve things, how we can ultimately go into the new year and absolutely smash social media out of the park. So a little bit about Girls in Marketing before we get started. Girls in Marketing, for those who don't know, I'm sure many of you will be familiar, is an online community and e-learning platform. We're on a mission to empower and educate people on their marketing journey through group support, affordable resources, courses, programs, and events. So we do everything and anything for people of all levels, all ages, whatever your kind of stance is, you can definitely find some great stuff with us. And a little bit about Monday. So this is kind of in collaboration with Monday. We use the platform all the time. We absolutely love it. And we use it a lot within our social media strategy as well. So Monday is a flexible platform where anyone can easily create or customize the solutions for their team. So basically to kind of run any sort of thing that you need, whether it's a project or a campaign or a strategy or anything like that. And I will talk a little bit more about how Monday fits into our social media strategy soon. But for now, let's just get into this. So we have a resource list that we've created for you. If you want to scan the QR code, please do. It takes you to a document which is housed on the Girls Marketing website. Essentially, it has some blogs and kind of boards and everything that you know there to help you get started. So I'll refer to a few things in the resource list as we go through today. Today's session will probably be around an hour or so. So hopefully you will enjoy. So quickly, what we're going to cover, the basics of a social media strategy, building an effective winning social media strategy, completing competitor analysis and investigating your target audience, batch creating content efficiently, strategy management and campaign tracking, and then also how we at Girls in Marketing plan, create, track and measure our social media campaigns using monday.com. So I hope everything is okay. Also, the resources will be sent out after. Yes, everyone's introducing themselves in the chat. Amazing. Just before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about social media because I feel like the industry is always changing. It's very confusing. Sometimes it can seem like a minefield of algorithms, trends, news updates, vanity metrics, and finding a strategy that works for you, the brand, the business, the organization, and that converts can really be difficult. And it does come without its challenges 100%. There will be so many people who kind of go through their life as a marketer that never really understand social media. You know, you might be a marketer currently who is working in social media, or you could be a marketer who's never experienced social media, and that's not something that you are really familiar with either. So just for a few people asking, this recording will be sent out afterwards via email, so don't worry about that. If anyone else asks in the chat, if they come in later, please anyone let them know. So yeah, social media, such a minefield of algorithms and trends and everything like that. If you currently work in social media, you will know the struggle of working in social media. Everyone relates to everyone, and everyone understands totally what other people go through. So in terms of the actual basics of social media, this is something that kind of working in social media I've come across and that I wanted to get out of the way right from the beginning so that everyone understands and everyone has that foundation of knowledge with social media strategy. Please, please, please don't waste time building a strategy for a social media platform that doesn't interest your audience. You really need to think about your audience and where they're likely to be scrolling through social media and the place that they're actively ready to engage with your brand or purchase a product or service. Ultimately, you need to know what the reason is for people being on your social media and being on social media in general. And I think a lot of it goes back to kind of the psychology of why we use social media. Different age groups, different types of people, different professions, all use social media for completely different reasons. So when you're thinking about the business that you work for or the business that you run, you also need to think about why your customers or why those people are on social media, and if they are actively ready to, engage with a brand, or if they're actively ready to purchase a product or service. Because if you're on a certain platform that maybe your audience aren't going to purchase with you from, the likes of Instagram is a really controversial one because it's so hard to actually make that purchase. I know with the new link sticker, it's a lot easier, but actually you need to think, if someone's scrolling through Instagram or, on stories or scrolling through their feed, are they actually wanting to purchase something, or do they really want to see your brand on there? This is something that you just kind of need to think about before you then discover your social media strategy that works for you. So that's just kind of tip one. Another thing is focus on building 2 main social media channels. So many people get caught up in the different types of social media channels. There's always a new social media channel. The newest one at the moment is obviously TikTok. Everyone thinks that they've got to be on TikTok and go viral. But in reality, the best piece of advice I could give to anyone is to build 2 main social media channels, and it will allow you to really get in the deep depths and understand your audience and understand what they want from you. You'll want to analyze your current channels to see what's performing the best, and then put your effort into 2 of these, or maybe the ones that have the most potential. So the saying goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one. So this is so true for social media. People say, oh, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but they forget to say that often better than a master of one. So I always think this is really rings true for social media. You shouldn't just be building one social media channel. You should be building more than that, but not too many that it gets super overwhelming. When you are doing this analysis, understand, okay, the first point that I made, what are our audience wanting to do on social media? And then also the platform that we use, and how does this interlink? So as I said, analyze your current channels. If you do have current channels, if you don't, then it might be that you think about the ones that have the most potential, which is where competitor analysis comes in. Start having a look at what other competitors are doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them, and then really try and put your own spin on it as an organization and as a business. The next tip that I would say is to understand that vanity metrics don't always equal success. Getting likes and comments on your posts are great, but how does this impact the business? If those likes and comments, then if they're not turning into conversions and customers, they mean very little. This is something I say so much to business owners, and as marketers, you should definitely go back to your boss or your manager and say, if we get 10 likes on a post, that's great, but are those 10 people going to buy from us? What is the purpose of this? I understand not every social media strategy is always about conversion. Sometimes it's about brand awareness. There can be a lot of other reasons that people are posting on social media, but ultimately you are posting on social media to get customers in the long run, whether that's through a brand campaign or whether it's through a direct conversion campaign as well. So just understanding that vanity metrics don't mean everything. You may get into a position where you're chatting to a boss or you're chatting to a manager and they want you to get to, the goal on Instagram used to be 10,000 followers for the swipe up. And obviously now that doesn't exist. So I'm not sure if people would still have that issue kind of to come around to, but I always felt like when you speak to people and they want a certain amount of followers, it's always 10,000. So just understanding that vanity metrics don't mean everything at all. Now, the last one is that success isn't linear. And at the end of the day, there'll definitely be times when you feel like you've cracked the social media code. And then a few hours later, you've got to rethink the whole strategy, and it's honestly a mess, but it's all part and parcel and fun of the job. Social media success isn't linear, and it probably never will be. And there's not really a secret recipe for success. And that's the unfortunate thing. It's great, but it's also not that great either, because success just really isn't linear. And you will 100% sometimes produce content that absolutely pops off. It's amazing. It might be a TikTok video or an Instagram reel, or something else on Facebook or Twitter, and maybe you go viral and you think, this is it, I've cracked the code, and then you'll do it again and it doesn't work as well next time. So just make sure that whenever you are creating a social media strategy, you really understand that this isn't something that is going to come easy, and it's not something that you're just going to be able to pick up and almost kind of crack the code of social media. So now getting into how to build a strategy in general. Now, breaking it down step by step, we're going to go through each step, but just as an overview, you will want to clearly understand your goals, then complete competitor analysis, learn more about what your audience wants, solidify your brand tone and how you want to be perceived online. And then after this, create your content pillars, and then you're down and you're ready to start creating content. So this is a kind of overall view of how to step by step create a strategy. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper and understand each step for what it is. So just before we go into that, I just want to talk a little bit about organization. So with social media, organization is the key. Planning and implementing a social media strategy, it comes with its challenges. Being organized is the first step to success, no matter what strategy you do. Now, the way that we plan, create, and implement the best social media strategy that's really transparent and smooth is through our Monday.com board, which is called Girls in Marketing Organic Social Media Post and Planning Schedule, which essentially allows us to overall as a team see everything that happens, the content, who produced the content, the status, the channel, the content type, post copy, tags, everything like that. And it's a really, really great way to honestly create a whole strategy that works really well. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on, but that's something that we use so much. Monday.com is a huge part of our social media strategy and of our business in general. It's a really key part of it, and we want to share that with you a little bit more because we absolutely love using that board. We custom created it and we worked with Monday because we used their template and almost kind of made ourselves our own because we loved it so much, but we wanted it to work for us and our organic social media strategy. So number one, in terms of building your winning strategy, is clearly understand your goals. Now, as I said before, social media isn't necessarily always about conversions. So when you first start a strategy, you want to think about a focus. Do you want to increase brand awareness? Do you want to build an engaged community? Do you want to sell services or products? Do you want to measure how people feel about your business? Or do you want to provide customer service on social media platforms? Ultimately, what do you want to do? This is something that you need to understand and that you need to ultimately think about. Okay, what is the situation? Like, how do we do this? And what is also the main focus? This is so difficult to even initially think about. You have to really understand, and ultimately the situation, some people have been kicked out. Okay, that's okay. I'm letting people back in, don't worry about it. So ultimately the main focus might change. You might have some strategy that works all the time, and you might have to think, okay, individually, what we want to do for the business right now, how does the main focus change? The main focus has changed all the time. So for each individual strategy, you will want to change this. Now, for us, maybe at the moment, our strategy is to build an engaged community. That's the main focus of our strategy. But then maybe we have kind of sub goals as well to increase brand awareness and sell products and services as well. So it's how everything kind of interlinks. Your main focus and your main goal is really, really important, but it shouldn't mean that you only have one. There can be a lot more as well. So really, really don't worry about it if you're sat there and you're thinking, okay, actually, we have multiple goals. You just need one main goal to help with the way you kind of build out a strategy completely. So after you've done this, you'll then want to think about, okay, what are my competitors doing? You thought about your goal, you want to increase brand awareness, or you want to build an engaged community, or you want to sell products and services. What happens next is so key, and it's competitor analysis. Competitor analysis is essentially looking at your competitors and analysing what they're doing. Now, the way that we've previously done this as Girls in Marketing is through the Monday.com board, which is competitor analysis. Essentially, you can create a whole load of factors and then you choose your top 3 competitors. Now, regardless if you've got the board or not, you can still do competitor analysis. This is just a really easy visual way of doing it. So for competitor analysis, you'll want to consider your top 3 competitors and some who maybe offer something very similar to your business. You conduct competitor analysis of their social media channels, and then maybe use something like the Monday.com competitor analysis board to help you keep track of progress. So it's really interesting as well because you can change the status. So for example, if competitor 1 never used to have a certain thing, so say for example, this is saying like they have templates if it says yes, or maybe to some extent something like that. It's really, really interesting to do this. This competitor analysis board on Monday.com is a generic competitor analysis one. It's not specific to social media, but you can kind of put it into your own hands and add the social media element. When you're doing social media competitor analysis, it is very different to a typical competitor analysis. So the factors that you want to consider are the following. So you want to consider audience growth, so how quickly they're growing or how slowly they're growing as well. Are they someone who gets 100 followers a day, or do they get 100 followers a month or maybe a year? What is their kind of growth like? You can measure this manually. So, you know, maybe at the start of every month, you do a competitor analysis and you say, okay, so-and-so has 200 followers, and then the next month they have 600 followers. So they've grown by 400 followers that month. And I just say you just manually have to analyze how quickly or slowly that they're growing. After this, the content published, so how quickly or how frequently they are publishing the content. So contextualize this. Is it 10 times a day? Is it 2 times a week? Is it 3 times a month? What is the content that they're publishing? And also, how frequently is it being published? It might also be interesting to look at the content type that they post as well. So really understanding what types of content works the best for them as a competitor. Is it maybe Reels? Because everyone always talks about how great Reels is, but ultimately, is it really going to be that great? You know, are your competitor amazing at Reels? Or in fact, maybe carousel posts work better for them, or PDFs on LinkedIn, or videos, for example. So really analyze the content that they're publishing, as well as the frequency and how much they're actually posting that content, the type of content that they're posting as well. This is especially true if you've noticed a huge audience growth. How are they building that audience? And then after that, you want to think about engagement. So how many likes and comments are your competitors getting? And is this engagement consistent or inconsistent? Because this can really help with understanding if they're running ads on certain posts, if they're boosting certain posts, or if they are paying for likes, if they're paying for comments or maybe followers. This will give you an understanding of if it's really fair to compare your strategy to their strategy, because you might find that your kind of engagement is not that great, but your competitors is amazing. But then ultimately, they're paying for their followers or for their engagement. So really do think about the engagement rate and if it's consistent or not. If it's not consistent, it might be that they are maybe just not posting that great content, or maybe they are and some people like the certain elements of their content more. So really just think about that. And then next is the hashtags. So this is great if you are really trying to build an organic strategy, which is something that I'm centering this whole webinar around, is mainly hashtags and kind of not hashtags, it's mainly organic social media, because that's the least budget. That's, you know, what you can kind of use. So find your competitors' most frequently used hashtags on their best performing posts. So this is something that I'm going to just go over really quickly in a video, because it is really interesting to do that and to understand, okay, what is the best performing post and how can we kind of do this, but not necessarily the exact same way. So the top posts is, what you want to do is look at your competitors' most popular posts and try and get an idea of why these posts are performing well, what type of content is working for them and what kind of content is not working for them. So I've got a quick video to show, which is essentially me on the Pepsi Instagram. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll through and we choose the posts that are getting the most engagement. So this post, for example, has got 12,000 likes, and that's considerably a lot more than the other posts. The same is with this popcorn one. So we hover back over that. That's got, you know, quite a lot of plays, quite a lot of likes. And again, with the Squid Game one, you know, that's got quite a lot of likes. We need to understand why these posts are doing better than other posts. And this is a really interesting way, if you look up at Instagram on your desktop, to understand, okay, just quickly scrolling, it's not too serious where you've got to analyze every single post. Analyze the top posts and understand. So the Squid Game picture, which has got the Pepsi logo, really, really cool, very reactive. So obviously that's going to do better. Maybe that shows Pepsi competitors that actually they need to be reactive. And then the kind of bling can that I showed at the start, maybe that's because it's a little bit different. It's not super promo-y, but it's kind of showing people a different side to Pepsi. Again, maybe if you are a Pepsi competitor, that would be really obvious. But just as an overview, I would 100% recommend going in just on Instagram desktop, scrolling through all the different posts and hovering over, and then choosing maybe 5 to 10 of the top posts, and then going away and doing analysis of each post, what hashtags they've included, what the engagement rate's like. Pepsi aren't necessarily using hashtags, but your competitors probably will be using hashtags. And you can do the same for LinkedIn as well. So scrolling through LinkedIn, checking out the most popular posts. And this is a way that you can do this without any tool. You know, there might be tools out there that can do competitor analysis, but this is a really key way that I found is super interesting. And also it's totally your own, you know, it's your own research. So it is a really good way to see what other people, especially your competitors, are doing and how they're doing it. So it might be that a post that does really well has certain hashtags that have allowed them to go viral, or it might be that there's certain elements of something that, you know, maybe they've used hashtags that's trending, especially on TikTok at the moment. Trending hashtags are a big thing, and announcements, maybe they're great, or maybe promo posts don't do as well, or maybe, you know, reactive marketing does well. So it's just essentially giving an overview and analysing those top posts. I'd say do that for 3 competitors. And this all comes before you actually, it's part of the building strategy. So it's part of the building process of a social media strategy. This comes before you start posting. And I would really recommend that you do all this before you start posting a social media strategy, because ultimately this is the strategy behind why you're posting. So if you want to go a little bit deeper and a step further to competitor analysis, you can kind of complete social listening, which is essentially giving you a much more broader perspective of the conversations related to your industry, competitors, your own brand. There's a variety of different social listening tools that you can try, but it essentially means that you can really dive deep into understanding what people are saying about your brand, how people are saying it, how people are communicating, because you might actually find that your audience is on a platform that you've never tried before. So Twitter is a big one. A lot of brands kind of forget about Twitter as a strategy, but maybe if your audience are talking about you on Twitter, you need to be on Twitter and actively engaging with this audience and building a community on Twitter. Alternatively, LinkedIn, a lot of people think LinkedIn is just for B2B, but it's for, for professionals and for anyone who kind of feels that they want to be on LinkedIn. So a lot of the time it's understanding not just the types of content that your competitors are doing, but where your actual audience is and how that links up with your competitors as well. So the third step is to figure out what your audience and your customers want from you on social media. So creating funny memes, educational carousels, it might all seem like a good idea, but if your typical audience don't want to see that from your brand, it won't be a successful social media strategy. One thing that you should really keep in mind is that adding value is the top priority. Most of your audience wants to see authentic, honest content that's being created for them, which they can kind of utilize in any way that they see. Figure out who your audience is and what they want from you, and that will really help to build your strategy in general. And, you can post the odd funny meme or, educational stuff if you want. But if that's not the sort of thing that your customers and that your audience want to see from you, they're not going to engage, and it's not going to mean that you get conversions either. And so I just quickly want to talk a little bit about Monday.com and social media. This is the kind of part that I wanted to be a bit interactive. So if we take Monday.com and their typical audience, which is teams, it's marketing managers, it's organizations, people who want to have an overall kind of view of their organization, of their campaigns, of their strategies. What would we say, and you can type this in the chat, what would we say is the best type of content for them to post if they want to target people who...
What's your price ideal? What will you do?
I'm just muting these people, sorry about that. What would we say is the best type of content for them to be producing? So as you can see here, they have produced 3 tips to get the most out of meetings, and then also a kind of relatable, tell me you're a boss without telling me a manager a post. So that's maybe relatable for their audience in terms of, the fact that you can do things with meetings on Monday, or the fact that a lot of managers use Monday. It'd be really interesting to hear people's thoughts on, if you worked at Monday and you were the social media manager for Monday, what sort of content would we, from what I've said, what sort of content would we want to produce? So how-to carousels and savable guides, amazing. Informative, thoughtful leadership while picking up on current trends, yes. Educational stuff, yes, definitely. I definitely think reactive is huge at the moment. Educational content, yes, definitely. PDF shares on LinkedIn, what they offer, specific things to do with Monday, memes, funny photos, how-tos. Easily to digest tips is a really great one, Casey. I think that is really true, because easy to digest, if you think, okay, I'm on Instagram, what do I actually want to do here? Like, is my audience ready to purchase? No. Monday.com is a huge brand. Maybe they don't necessarily want conversions from social media. They just want more brand awareness. So easy to digest tips is a great one. How to use Monday for certain things. Yes, Charlotte, that's great. I think that is so true, because Monday has so many different kind of all these different things that you can do, integrations, automations, and ultimately people might not know if you stumble across the brand itself, you might not know that they have all these different sorts of things that you can do on the platform. So how to is great as well. Walk through tours of the system, great. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Key tips on how to use Monday and why people should use it. Memes, engaging, relating stuff. Yeah, I think memes is really big. It's kind of relatable. It's always funny, isn't it? The tell me boss or tell me your manager situation. I think ultimately all of these are great suggestions, and I think ultimately when you're looking at what to post, you need to think, what do our audience want to see from us? It's obvious that they want to see the platform features, but how can we relate it to our audience as well? Obviously Monday.com's audience are quite specific within different industries, but also could be really generic. So I think as a business and as a marketer, you need to understand, okay, how do we produce content that aligns with everyone? And the truth is, you probably won't. There will be posts where it's specifically at a type of audience or a specific type of person, and that's great. This, for example, the tell me a boss without telling me you're a manager, you can use Monday.com without being a manager or a boss, but that's at a specific type of audience. So that's something that you've got to kind of keep in mind. So next is solidify your brand, tone of voice, and how you want to be perceived online. Engagement, community building, everything in between is an important element of your social media strategy, but keeping your brand tone consistent across marketing is really integral. Your brand tone can dictate how your audience and customers perceive your brand online, and then this can then lead them to purchasing or avoiding your products and services. A winning social media strategy considers brand tone and it aligns with business goals. And then also, if you're a business with kind of specific or strict rules for social media, you might not be able to be as creative. Now, this is something that keeps coming up a lot because it's not always the case that you can be super creative with your strategy, which is fine. But you just want to always make sure that you're keeping your brand tone of voice consistent across channels, across the business. Everything is coherent. Now, if you're a small business, this might be something that is really easy to do. If you are a big business, it might be a little bit more difficult. So how do you keep this brand tone of voice consistent? I want to talk about Ryanair's TikTok. Now, in the chat, let me know if you've seen Ryanair's TikTok recently, because they're regularly going viral and they get a lot of likes, and they are talking about, okay, how, what can we do to adhere to our customers? Everyone's saying they love Ryanair, obsessed, love it. Okay. So what we need to think as marketers is, how is this contributing to their overall strategy? Creating kind of funny and viral content on social media, it's not a crime and it should be embraced, but consistency is key. And this is something that people definitely need to think about, and something that I've picked up as a marketer looking at Ryanair. I think it's so funny, but at the same time, a little inconsistent. So if you look at these two TikToks, they're just screenshots, it's not the video. We've got the one on the left, which is a video of someone kind of doing a trend where it's like the screaming trend, and it says, you hear a baby on the flight crying again. Now, this, in my opinion, maybe people will agree or not, let me know, this kind of TikTok doesn't portray Ryanair as a family brand, because it's kind of complaining about the fact that babies are on a flight. If you are, if you are a mother or you're someone who has a baby and you maybe see this TikTok, I personally feel like that might think, okay, it's not really a family brand because they're complaining about the fact that babies cry on their plane. But then alternatively, we have the one on the right, which is really, really funny. And it was another trend. And it was basically saying that it was, I can't remember what the specific trend was, but it was essentially saying that they were a family brand. It was the song about like being a family brand or something like that. And I think that this TikTok does portray Ryanair as a family brand. So overall, looking at the two, these were posted within kind of a month or so of each other. And essentially, it's kind of like, okay, what is the consistency here? And I understand someone's just said in the chat, which is a really good point, actually. Chelsea, I think it was, I'm a mother, find it funny, it's relatable because we know that babies are annoying. And I totally get this. But is this how Ryanair wants to be perceived as a brand? Think of it from a kind of branding point of view. Not everybody is going to think that left TikTok is funny because maybe they're insecure because you've been on a flight before and your baby's cried and it's made you nervous or embarrassed or something like that. Alternatively, you might get other people like Chelsea who say it's funny because, you know, babies cry and it's relatable. You've also got it on another foot where it's kind of like people who fly might not want the babies to be crying. So it's overall like as an analysis, thinking about the consistency. This is something that I want to really try and kind of get through to people, is that analysis of consistency of branding, not necessarily to get at TikTok or to get at Ryanair at all. It's just that consistency element. And then there's another one, which is great. You know, these are some really well executed TikToks that align better with Ryanair as a brand. So there was one on the left, which was which crew member do you want to see on your flight? And it was like a picture of all the different or videos of all the different crew members. And then there was a funny one, which was asking the pilot how long you've been flying for during a 5-hour flight. And that was really funny as well. So you've just got to think about the consistency. This is something that I wanted to kind of, you know, literally put out there to you guys as marketers, is how do you make sure that that consistency happens? Now, it might be that as a kind of boss or as a manager or as someone, as a business owner, you aren't bothered about consistency and you're not bothered if TikTok is more of a funny, because I definitely think that TikTok is more of a funny platform. You know, and a lot of people are saying in the chat that, you know, Ryanair as a brand, they like to get people talking. They're not bothered if it's positive or negative, which I totally respect. And I think that that is something that you need to talk to your manager about beforehand, which I'm sure Ryanair will have had a huge discussion about it. But you personally, to take away from today, if you do want to produce this sort of content, because it can work for you, whether it's positive or negative, asking and bringing up those conversations with managers or with your kind of bosses. How does that kind of relate, and how does it also add to the overall business goals and strategy? You know, before we were saying about Ryanair's boss or the main guy, the CEO, not bothered about positive or negative publicity. If that's your strategy and you are genuinely not bothered, you just want to put, this is very brand awareness, because I'm not sure that these TikToks would necessarily say, I want to buy from Ryanair, but they'd say, this is really funny. And maybe they'd be in the back of your mind when you are thinking about flying. So it's very psychological and just kind of an analysis that I thought was interesting to bring in this conversation today. And it's got everyone talking, so I am really happy about that. So going on to the kind of last step in building a winning strategy is to create content pillars that will add diversity across your content. Now, honestly, 3 to 4 content pillars are enough to provide a variety of messages to your customers. Promo and sales shouldn't be a content pillar. This is something that a lot of people get kind of confused with and don't and do. Promo and sales should ultimately be integrated and almost kind of naturally included in your content, rather than having direct posts that are labeled as promo and sales. It should be kind of more naturally included in your content. I'm pretty sure people will be fully aware of content pillars, because they just really give each kind of element of your social media strategy a solid kind of background to it. So this is the content pillar, these are the people who we're targeting. And when you're building out these content pillars, really understand who that content pillar targets, if it's a specific type of person, if it's a specific type of customer, and how that kind of works within your overall strategy. So these are a few kind of tips for content pillars. When you're thinking of content pillars, they need to solve a problem or answer questions, comprehensively with accurate information. They can kind of give a different scope or detail on other content on a subject, and then also they're kind of a combination of trustworthy, useful information. So when you're thinking about your individual content pillars themselves, I would definitely suggest that you consider these three. Now, I've just seen someone in the chat said 3 or 4 content pillars for each platform or for the entire brand. Again, this is definitely, I would say content pillars for the 2 main ones. So before we chatted about the 2 main channels, you will want to create content pillars for these 2 main channels, but different. Now, if you are really passionate about building, loads of different channels, then maybe you can have some more generic content pillars. But if you want to focus on the 2 main channels, that's when you want to say, okay, these are the content pillars for this channel, these are the content pillars for this channel, because they could be completely separate. Our main 2 channels at Girls in Marketing are LinkedIn and Instagram, and we post entirely different content on both because we have completely different audiences. They both marry up, and we can create content for all of those types of people, whatever level or age or industry they're in. But ultimately we have different content pillars for our main 2 different platforms, just because it works better. Now, if social media isn't your main strategy, then it might be that you want to have 3 or 4 generic pillars for the whole brand across different social medias, and that's fine. Just the way that you're going to get the most success is to have specific content pillars for different platforms, definitely. Now, tackling your social media strategy. So the way that we kind of tackle our social media strategy is to use a workspace and a board on monday.com for the whole social media strategy in general. So it'll allow you to kind of track the content across social media in one place. So track progress of different channels and the content types. And maybe, for example, if you're wanting to track how well reels are doing on Instagram or polls on LinkedIn, then it's a really great way to kind of marry up everything all together on Monday specifically. Now, our template that we are currently in the midst of making public. So if you sign up today to monday.com using our link, which is in the resource list, also it'll be in the chat. Essentially, this will allow you to see the different types of content. So for example, you can see here by the views that our reels get the most impressions, followed by videos, images, and then text is kind of 0. So it's really great to see the different types of impressions by content type, and equally different impressions by channel as well. So if we were to look at this, the main table is all created in the whole template. And if we look at the content type, we can see that reels are the best. And then going on to impressions, TikTok is impressions ridiculous, Instagram and LinkedIn. So it's a really great way, rather than having to do that every single month, is your own analysis. You can just use this table, and it makes it so easy because it automatically does it when you enter in the analytics every month on your main table. This is the best way that we do it, and monday.com plays an integral part of our social media strategy at Girls in Marketing. So there is a generic template which is called social media, and that's great as well, but essentially we custom created this board to work for our organic social media campaign and our kind of strategy in general. So we use it to create and track all of our social media campaigns, as well as get them approved. And it also allows us to collaborate as a team, give feedback, keep organized, and essentially ensure that the strategy works really, really well. So this template isn't available just yet, but it will be available soon. We created it in mind for just in general because we were using it anyway. So we said to monday.com, we said, can we make this public to our followers? Because we use it every day, all day, for our social media strategy. So can we make this public? So they're currently in the process of getting this up for us. So if you sign up to monday.com now, you will still have access to it, the template. It will be in the template center in Monday. So I'd 100% recommend that you do this. It's really changed our life since we did. We did used to kind of just compilate everything in a form and a kind of document, but it didn't really work, and this makes it a lot more cohesive. And we can look back at kind of previous months and see what kind of worked. Georgina said she's already got monday.com because she signed up a few days ago, and you can still get the template, yes. So essentially, when the template goes live, you can look in the template center. So every time you go into Monday, there's a template center. Look in there, type in Girls in Marketing, and it will pop up. We're pretty sure it'll be up within the next kind of week or two. We're really pushing for it to be up as soon as possible, because it really has kind of changed the game for us. But for now, if you want to try, there's the competitor analysis board, which is great, and the normal social media post planning as well. So that might work for you. But something that we use is obviously this board. So we'd 100% recommend that you sign up for it. And so with this board in particular, I said before, you can track the status of your content. So whether it's scheduled, created, published, the published date of it, the channel that it's on. So kind of Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, that sort of thing. And with the channel, we created the color so that it matched up to the color of the social media itself. So hopefully anyone who's a perfectionist really enjoys that, because we enjoyed creating that. And then the post copy, the hashtags, any supporting files, and you can then go on and track the likes and the comments and the impressions all in one board. So it's just a whole kind of thing all together. And yeah, it's really great. This is just a bit of a kind of overview of it. We use this all the time. We've been obviously using it literally since about May, June time. This isn't our public one now. We have a private one as well. This is just the template that we're getting published for everyone to use. But it's great if you have a manager and you don't necessarily want to be sending them hundreds of different files and hashtags and stuff like that. And it just gives you a better breakdown of how that works. And so, yeah, that is everything for today. I really want to get involved and ask questions. So just remember that we've created the resource for you. So you scan the QR code there. Our link to monday.com, which we'd really appreciate if you are going to sign up to that. It is hey.monday.com/girlsinmarketing. So it'd be great there. But yes, would love any questions. I want to chat to you guys a little bit more about social media if you've got any questions. So Brenda said, can you schedule a post on monday.com? Currently, you can schedule LinkedIn posts, which is great, and that's working really well for us. But you can't schedule kind of Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. But you can put them all in. It's more of an organizational platform instead of a scheduling tool. But maybe, who knows what will happen in the future. What are the best metrics for brand awareness? Essentially, it's really hard to kind of measure metrics in terms of brand awareness. Brand awareness is something that you will just, it's a lot through like referrals and, how the inbound versus outbound sales, stuff like that. There isn't any real physical way to kind of track analytics and metrics for brand awareness unless maybe you do a specific thing, like for example a QR code. You can measure how many people use that, and it also depends on what type of if you're going for a digital or more of a traditional strategy. So yeah, I definitely think about how you can measure that and how effective it is in terms of brand awareness and everything like that. Is Monday.com effective for B2B marketing? Definitely, 100%. I would say it's effective for B2B and B2C. We work with brands a lot, and we use Monday.com for that as well. It's great because on Monday there is a template function, and there's also a shareable board. So if you are a freelancer or you're a business owner and you want to plan all the content or anything in Monday, you can do all that, and then you can create a shareable board that you send to them. They can't edit it, but they can see everything. And you can also maybe invite, if you've got clients, you're a freelancer and you've got clients, you can invite people to your certain boards or workspaces. So it's a really great way to track things and just keep on top of things, you know. If you are using it for a project, it's really great for kind of processes as well, tracking processes and everything. And there's a lot of automations and integrations. So it integrates with MailChimp, MailerLite, LinkedIn. There's so many. I mean, they're just social media and kind of marketing specific, but there is genuinely so many integrations. And Britt said, is Monday.com free? They do have a free option, and it's relatively cheap as a team as well. So they offer it free of charge to students, but they also have kind of, it's relatively cheap for kind of teams or just for you as an individual if you want it. But if you are working in a team, I definitely recommend this because it just gives a really great view of your overall strategy. I'm just trying to see all the different questions because there's so many. The slides, yes, we'll send out post-event so you can get hold of them. Everyone sending the LinkedIn, amazing. Make sure you've connected with me as well because I like a little connection request. We already use Monday.com. Yeah, amazing. To be honest, I just recommend signing up, giving it a go, because it is really cheap and it's a great way to kind of just almost create a hub within the business, especially marketing related. If you have a marketing team, you know, it's a great way to kind of have that collaborative element of a platform, because we were finding before we signed up to Monday.com, we were finding that it was very disjointed because we had loads of different things everywhere. So like, you know, there was strategies, there was campaigns, there was like outreach, there was so many different things, and it was just everywhere. Whereas now it's just collaboratively in different workspaces, very organized. If you've seen the inside of our Monday boards, you would be impressed, as if you are a perfectionist, because it is very organized, and it just helps with peace of mind as well. That's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, is kind of having that peace of mind in terms of overall of the strategy. So someone said on Monday.com, does it pull through the likes or do you manually update the metrics on the board? So currently we manually update the metrics on the board ourselves. So we tend to do this on a monthly basis, or you could do it on a weekly basis as well, depending on, you know, what you want to do. Just because we do this cross channel. So we do Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, everything like that. And there's not really anywhere else. This collaborates everything all together, but there's nowhere else where you can really kind of collaboratively analyze all of those analytics. So it really gives that much of a difference. And loads of people sending their LinkedIn, amazing. I'm just trying to see any other questions. Yeah, it is very difficult to find a platform, social media platform, that pulls in analytics, which is why we use this board on Monday.com, because essentially we give that element of, okay, we're collaborating it all together, and we can see the impressions in channels, we can see the impressions in across like channels and across content types and stuff like that. So I think for us, it was more about creating a space where we can, you know, have everything we ever wanted in one whole place, which is amazing. So I said, when will a template be available? Right now, it's currently with the developers, it's all created. They just need to make it so it's all accessible to everyone. So it will be up, but what we'll do is when it's up and it's ready, we'll give you out an email. But we'd recommend as well just signing up through our link so that you can then kind of go over and someone says something about answering the question. Yeah, definitely sign up, give it a go, try it out. It will genuinely change your life in terms of general collaboration. Examples of content pillars. Yeah, so content pillars can be anything. It really does depend on your brand. So for example, girls in marketing, someone's asking, are girls marketing content pillars? So maybe like ours is like marketing news. So like news does well. So if you're in a certain industry posting about news, that could be a great content pillar. It could also be, there's so many questions coming up. News is a really good one. Education, I think it's different for girls in marketing because we're very education based. But if your business isn't necessarily education, it is quite difficult to post educational stuff. Relatable stuff, memes is always great. Walkthroughs, behind the scenes is good. Kind of, you know, behind the scenes of teams, and like if you are very like set on, okay, this is a team. I'm getting really confused because there's so many questions coming up. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me just have a look. So many questions. I'm trying to pick them. If you don't have a marketing team, is Monday a good platform for a marketer that helps multiple businesses? 100%. Like I would 100% recommend it, because essentially you don't have to have a marketing team. You can do it on your own. If you really want to be organized and you want to create processes and stuff, yeah, I would 100% recommend it, even if you are just on your own and you don't kind of have any other people helping you. What kind of company culture posts work? Well, I think company culture can work. I wouldn't necessarily say it should be a content pillar, because unless you are maybe a recruitment company or someone who recruits quite a lot, a company culture is only really focusing on people who may want a job at the company. So they do work really well. I just wouldn't make that a focus, unless maybe the social media strategy, a campaign is to get loads of people to apply for a job. Then maybe within that you can do more company culture posts. But I definitely think behind the scenes is great. Really funny, relatable stuff, walkthroughs of the brand, or kind of more information about the brand. They're really good. You don't necessarily have to do company culture in particular, but it is a great one if you are looking to hire at the moment. Yeah, someone said Monday.com is great for me as a solo marketer, just to organize everything. Yeah, so if you want to organize everything, it's a great platform to use that. Creating social media assets, should they be consistent in colors or different to shake things up? Again, I'd definitely say think about your kind of business color palette. That's huge. It doesn't have to be consistent. It just depends on the aesthetic of your brand. If you want it to be consistent, that's great. But what I would focus on definitely is more the content rather than the look of the content. You know, you could create something that looks absolutely insane and it's the most amazing thing you've ever created, but it only gets like 1 like. Or you could create something that is really good content wise, but it looks not that great. The design isn't amazing, but it still gets loads of likes. It gets like 50 likes. When you compare the two, you've probably spent more time on the one that looks aesthetically pleasing. But in reality, the stuff that does well is the stuff that relates to your customer, that relates to your audience, and really kind of gives that element of, okay, this is the sort of content that we want to be producing. Okay, so I think I'm going to log off for now. There's been some really great questions. Please definitely do head over to Monday.com and try out. There is an extended 28-day free trial for you guys if you sign up from hey.monday.com/girlsinmarketing. You can click the links in the resource list as well, please do. But I will make sure that this is uploaded and everyone gets it sent out. Hopefully you enjoyed today. It's been great. I love the interactive element. Yes, 28-day free trial. You have to sign up using our link if you want a 28-day free trial, just to let you know, because typically it's only about like 7 days or something like that. So please do download the worksheet, download the resource list, use that. It's been really great. Hopefully it's been helpful, and I will send out an email with this recorded webinar and the resource list again for you. So I hope you've enjoyed, and it's been lovely chatting to everyone, and I will speak to you all soon.